Have you ever wondered what you'd do if you found a dying child in the rain and discovered he belonged to the most dangerous man in Seoul? Hana never imagined she'd have to answer that question. But on a Tuesday night in late October, with her feet aching from a 12-hour shift and her pockets empty except for subway fare, she heard something that changed everything. A sound softer than the rain, sharper than the wind. A child crying. She stopped at the mouth of the alley. Neon signs flickered overhead, pink, blue, gold, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. There, huddled against the wall beneath a torn awning, was a little boy, 7 years old maybe, soaked through, shaking so hard his teeth chattered. His eyes met hers, dark, terrified, pleading, and something inside her, something poverty hadn't managed to kill, woke up. "Hey," she whispered, kneeling down. Rain soaked through her jeans. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now." He didn't speak, just stared at her with those enormous eyes. His lips were turning blue. She pulled off her jacket, threadbare and patched, but warm, and wrapped it around his thin shoulders. He weighed almost nothing when she lifted him, like holding a bird. Her apartment was 20 minutes away. Her fridge held instant noodles and half a carton of eggs. Her rent was 3 weeks overdue. But none of that mattered. Because sometimes love doesn't ask if you're ready. Sometimes it doesn't ask if you can afford it. It just shows up in the rain and asks if you'll answer. So Hana did the only thing she knew how to do. She carried him home. Hana's studio apartment wasn't much. 1 room, 1 window with a crack running through the glass. A hot plate that only worked when you jiggled the cord, but it was warm. And right now, that was everything. She laid the boy on her bed, the only bed, and pulled her wool blanket over him. The blanket had come from a church donation bin 3 years ago. Faded green, smelled like mothballs, but it kept the cold away. The boy's breathing evened out, his eyes closed. She stood there watching his small chest rise and fall, and thought, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Her mind cycled through possibilities. A runaway? Unlikely. He was too young, too well dressed beneath the dirt. Abandoned? The thought made her stomach turn. Lost during a family outing? But what family would let hours pass without searching every corner of the city? And that necklace, silver, engraved, expensive. Someone loved this child, enough to give him something precious. So where were they? She noticed other details now that the immediate crisis had passed. His clothes, though soaked and muddy, were good quality. His sneakers were nearly new. His hair had been recently cut. This wasn't a child living on the streets. This was a child who'd been cared for, until tonight. But she didn't wake him to ask. Instead, she turned to the hot plate, filled her last clean pot with water, and opened a packet of instant noodles. The broth bubbled, steam rose, filling the tiny room with the smell of garlic and salt. She set the bowl on the overturned crate beside her bed and scribbled a note on the back of a grocery receipt. "Food is here if you wake up. You're safe, I promise." Then she grabbed her coat for a pillow, curled up on the floor, and closed her eyes. When morning light filtered through the cracked window, she woke to a sound. Slurping. She sat up fast. The boy was perched on the edge of her bed, the bowl of cold noodles balanced in his lap, chopsticks gripped tight in both hands. He ate slowly, methodically, like someone who'd learned not to waste a single bite. "Good morning," she said softly. He looked up. His eyes were still wary, but something had shifted. the terror had dulled to caution. After a long moment, his mouth curved into the smallest smile. "Thank you," he whispered. Then even softer, "Mom." Her heart stopped. Mom. She wasn't anyone's mother. She was 24 years old, broke, working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over her own head. She hadn't spoken to her own family in 3 years. Not since they'd told her she was wasting her life trying to make it in a city that would chew her up and spit her out. Maybe they'd been right, but that word, Mom, settled into her chest like something warm and unbreakable. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked. He touched the small silver necklace around his neck. She hadn't noticed it last night. Delicate chain, a small pendant engraved with careful script. "Minho," he said. "Minho," she smiled. "That's a beautiful name." He nodded. "Can you tell me where you live, where your family is?" His face went blank. He looked down at the empty bowl. "That's okay," she said quickly. "You don't have to talk about it yet." She stood, stretched her stiff back, and moved to the hot plate. Cracked 2 eggs into the last of the broth. While they cooked, she looked around her cramped space, at the stack of bills on the windowsill marked overdue in red ink, at the single towel hanging over the back of a chair, at her work shoes with holes in the soles. This isn't a life for a child, she thought. But it was what she had. So she made a promise to herself, standing in that tiny kitchen with morning light, turning the dust motes gold. "Until I figure out where you belong, I'll keep you safe." She scooped the soft-cooked eggs onto a chipped plate and set them in front of Minho. He looked at them like they were treasure. "Eat," she said gently. "Then we'll figure out what to do next." Outside, Seoul hummed with morning traffic. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. The world kept turning, but in that small room, time felt suspended, like she and this lost boy existed in a pocket of grace. She thought about calling the police. She should call the police. That's what responsible people did when they found lost children. But something held her back. Maybe it was the way he'd flinched when she first reached for him in the alley, like he expected to be hurt. Maybe it was the terror in his eyes when he'd looked at her, not the confusion of a child separated from parents at a shopping mall, but something deeper, darker, fear of something specific. She'd seen that look before, years ago, volunteering at a women's shelter during college. Children who'd witnessed things no child should see, who'd learned that adults weren't always safe. Whatever had happened to this boy, he wasn't just lost. He was running from something, and until she knew what, she couldn't risk handing him over to a system that might send him right back to danger. She'd give it a day, maybe 2, let him feel safe, let him trust her enough to tell his story. Then she'd figure out the right thing to do. For now he needed rest, food, safety, things she could give him, even if she had nothing else to offer. If this story is already touching your heart, go ahead and like this video, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because Hana's about to discover that saving one child means crossing paths with the most dangerous man in the city. Across Seoul, in a glass tower that overlooked the Han River, a man sat alone in the dark. His name was Jun Seok, 42 years old. Built an empire that made politicians nervous and rivals disappear. But tonight, none of that power meant anything. He stared at the laptop screen glowing in front of him. Security footage, grainy. Time-stamped October 8th, 3 weeks ago. A black sedan pulling up to a playground in Gangnam. His son, Minho, climbing out, laughing at something. A woman's voice off-screen. "Stay close, baby." His late wife's voice. Jun Seok had watched this clip 237 times. He'd memorized every frame. The way Minho's jacket was zipped crooked. The way he waved at the camera before running toward the swings. Then it happened. Two men in masks, a brief struggle with the bodyguard. The camera jerking wildly as someone knocked it aside. When the footage stabilized, the car was gone. So was Minho. Jun Seok's hand tightened on the edge of the desk until his knuckles turned white. The kidnapping had been retaliation. A rival faction, led by his former lieutenant, a man named Taijin, had orchestrated it to force him back into the organization. After his wife died of cancer 2 years ago, Jun Seok had started dismantling his operations, selling territories, cutting ties, trying to become the kind of man his son could respect. But men like Taejin don't let you walk away. They'd taken Minho to prove a point. "You're ours. You'll always be ours." "Sir?" Jun Seok didn't turn around. "What is it, Kong?" His head of security stepped into the dim room. "We traced the sedan to Itaewon, abandoned. No prints, no evidence. Keep looking." "Yes, sir, but there's something else." Kong paused. "A woman reported finding a lost child 3 weeks ago. Description matches Minho. She's been caring for him." Jun Seok's head snapped up. "Where?" "She works at a ramen shop near Noksapyeong Station. Name's Hana, mid-20s. The shop owner says she brought the boy home the night of the abduction." For the first time in 21 days, Jun Seok felt something crack, open in his chest. Not hope. He'd buried that with his wife. But possibility. "Send me everything you have on her," he said. Kang nodded and disappeared. Alone again, Jun Seok opened the desk drawer. Inside sat a silver ring, delicate, engraved with a single word, promise, his wife's wedding ring. He'd slipped it off her finger the day they buried her, because leaving it in the ground felt like abandoning her. But wearing it felt like drowning. So it lived in this drawer, a reminder of everything he'd lost. He picked it up now, held it to the light. His wife had been the only person who'd ever seen past the violence to the man underneath, the one who'd believed he could be more than what the organization had made him. When cancer took her, it had taken his reason for trying to change. Until Minho. His son had become his second chance, his redemption, the proof that he could create something good in this world instead of just destroying. And then Taejin had taken that too. "If there's a next life," he whispered to the empty room, to the memory of his wife, "I just want to be a father, not this." He closed his fist around the ring, stood, grabbed his coat, and checked the handgun at his side. Old instinct, impossible to shake. The file on Hana arrived on his phone as he walked to the elevator. He scrolled through it quickly. 24 years old. Originally from the States, moved to Seoul 5 years ago. Work visa. 3 jobs to make ends meet. No criminal record. No family in Korea. Building manager. Reported her as quiet, kind, always paid rent late, but always paid. She sounded like someone barely surviving. So why had she taken in a stranger's child? The elevator descended through 40 floors of steel and glass. When he stepped out into the underground garage, his driver was already waiting. "I Noksapyeong," Jun Seok said. The man nodded. Knew better than to ask questions. As the car pulled into Seoul traffic, Jun Seok stared out at the city lights. Millions of people out there. Millions of lives intersecting and diverging and never touching. And somewhere in that sprawl, a stranger was protecting his son. Someone who had no reason to help. No connection, no obligation. Just kindness. He'd spent 2 decades in a world where kindness was weakness, where compassion got you killed, where the only currency that mattered was fear. But his wife had taught him different. She'd shown him that real strength wasn't domination. It was choosing to be gentle when you had the power to be cruel. He'd forgotten that lesson after she died. Maybe this woman, Hana, was about to remind him. Jun Seok had spent 2 decades learning that power couldn't protect the people you loved. It could only destroy them. He'd failed once. He wouldn't fail again. 3 nights later, Hana locked the back door of the ramen shop and pulled her coat tight against the autumn chill. The alley was dark, except for one flickering bulb that cast jittery shadows on the wet pavement. She was halfway to the street when she heard voices. Angry, close. She froze. 2 men stumbled into view. One was supporting the other, who had blood running down his sleeve. Dark against white fabric. Every survival instinct Hana had screamed, "Walk away, don't get involved." But the injured man looked up. Their eyes met. He was older than her. Early 40s, maybe. Sharp features, gray threading through black hair. The kind of face that belonged in boardrooms or on magazine covers. But right now, pale, unsteady, hurt. "Please," the other man said quickly, "my friend just needs—" "I have a first aid kit inside," Hana heard herself say. She didn't know why, didn't understand this compulsion to help every broken thing that crossed her path. But she unlocked the door and held it open. The men followed her into the storage room. She grabbed the kit from the shelf, gestured for the injured man to sit. He did, watching her with dark, unreadable eyes. She rolled up his sleeve carefully. The wound was shallow, a knife slash, maybe broken glass. She cleaned it with antiseptic, her hands steady from months of patching up drunk regulars and kitchen accidents. "You shouldn't be fighting," she said quietly, focusing on the bandage. "Not in this cold. You always pick up strays?" His voice was low, rough around the edges. "Only the ones who don't argue with me." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "Smart policy." "What's your name?" she asked, tying off the gauze. He hesitated for just a fraction too long. "Jun Seok." "Hana." Something flickered in his expression. Recognition? She couldn't tell. "Thank you, Hana." She nodded, stood, wiped her hands on a towel. "You should see a real doctor. That needs stitches." "I will." But he didn't move, just kept watching her like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Miss Hana?" Her stomach dropped. Minho stood in the doorway in his borrowed pajamas, rubbing his eyes. She'd left him asleep upstairs in the shop owner's office. He must have woken up looking for her. "Hey, sweetheart," she said quickly. "Go back to bed. I'll be right up." But Minho wasn't looking at her. He was staring at Jun Seok. And Jun Seok was staring back, his face draining of all color. The air went impossibly still. Minho's small hand drifted to the necklace at his throat. His lips parted. "Dad?" The word fell like a stone into deep water. Jun Seok stood so fast his chair scraped backward. "Minho?" Hana's heart hammered against her ribs. "Wait, you know each other?" Jun Seok's gaze never left the boy. His hands trembled. "He's my son." Hana felt reality tilt sideways. "Your son?" "I've been looking for him," Jun Seok said, his voice cracking. For 3 weeks. Minho didn't run to him, didn't smile, just stood there, small and uncertain in the doorway. Hana's mind raced through fragments. The expensive coat Jun Seok wore, the way the other man deferred to him, the gun she'd glimpsed under his jacket. She couldn't finish the sentence. I was involved in organized crime, he said quietly. I've been trying to leave that life, but some people don't want to let me go. Mafia, she thought. The word tasted bitter. Trying isn't good enough, she said, her voice sharpening. Not for him. He's 7 years old. He needs safety, not your dangerous world. You think I don't know that? Jun Seok's composure cracked. You think I don't live with that guilt every second? I think you lost him once. The words landed like a physical blow. His face went rigid, then collapsed. I did, and I'll spend my life making up for it. But he's still my son, and I'm the one who's kept him alive for 3 weeks. Silence pressed down on them. Minho's small voice cut through it. Miss Hana takes care of me. Jun Seok looked at his son. His expression transformed, grief and love and regret all tangled together. I know she does, buddy. He knelt slowly until he was eye level with Minho. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when those bad men came. I'm sorry you were scared, but I never stopped looking for you. Minho studied his father's face, then reached out tentatively and touched the fresh scar along Jun Seok's jaw, a reminder of tonight's violence. You got hurt looking for me? A little, but Miss Hana fixed it. Minho nodded solemnly. She fixes everything. Jun Seok's eyes glistened. She must be pretty special. She is. Watching them, Hana felt her heart tear in 2 directions. This wasn't her child, wasn't her story, but she'd been the one singing him to sleep when nightmares woke him screaming. She'd been the one teaching him it was safe to smile again. And now what? She was supposed to hand him over and disappear? I need to bring him home, Jun Seok said, standing. His voice had steadied. Where he belongs. Home to what? Hana challenged. The same life that put him in danger? I'm leaving that life behind. You can't just walk away from organized crime. I can. His gaze locked onto hers with fierce intensity. I will, for him. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that love could erase the past. But she'd learned the hard way that good intentions weren't enough. If you really love him, she said carefully, let him grow up as a normal child, not as someone's target. Jun Seok's hands clenched at his sides. He looked at Minho, really looked at how the boy still held Hana's hand, how he leaned into her like she was home. Give me a chance to prove myself, he said quietly. Please. She didn't answer, just pulled Minho closer and held on. 2 days later, Hana stood outside a mansion in Gangnam. Not a house, a mansion. 3 stories of white stone behind iron gates. Gardens that looked professionally maintained. The kind of wealth that made her shabby apartment feel like a joke. She felt impossibly small. Jun Seok opened the door himself. Thank you for coming. You sent a car and a driver, she said coolly. Didn't feel like I had much choice. I wanted to talk somewhere private, about Minho's future. She followed him through an entrance hall with marble floors and a crystal chandelier. Everything gleamed. Everything was perfect and empty. Where is he? She asked immediately. Upstairs with Mrs. Choi, my housekeeper. He's safe. Is he happy? Jun Seok's jaw tightened. He keeps asking for you. Good, she thought. then felt guilty for thinking it. He led her to a sitting room. She perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. Jun Seok poured tea from an elegant porcelain pot. The steam carried jasmine scent into the air. He set a cup in front of her with careful precision. "I want to do right by him," he said. "Then be honest with me. What do you actually want?" "Your blessing," she blinked. "My what?" "You've been his mother for 3 weeks, the only person he trusted when he was terrified and alone. I can't just take him and pretend that doesn't matter." He sat across from her. "So I'm asking, will you let me try to be his father again?" The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. "You don't need my permission," she said quietly. "Yes, I do." She picked up the teacup, held its warmth between her palms, studied this man who'd built power on violence, but now sat before her like someone seeking forgiveness. "What kind of life can you actually give him?" she asked. "If you're really leaving organized crime, what's left?" "I don't have all the answers yet," he admitted. "But I'm selling the illegal operations. I'll keep legitimate businesses, move somewhere quieter, enroll Minho in school." He paused. Make sure he never has to be afraid again. Fear isn't the only problem. He needs love, consistency, someone who shows up every single day. "I will show up. Even when it's hard? Even when you'd rather run?" "Especially then." She searched his face for lies and found only exhaustion and determination. "What about the people you hurt getting to this point?" she asked quietly. "Building your empire, all the damage you caused." He flinched, looked away. "I can't undo it." "No, but you can acknowledge it." Long silence. "I've spent 2 years trying to forget," he finally said. "The businesses I destroyed, the families I broke, the violence I authorized." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But Minho makes me want to remember, so I never become that person again." Hana's chest tightened. She wasn't perfect either. She'd made mistakes, hurt people without meaning to. But she'd never stopped trying to be better. Jun Seok pulled a folded document from his jacket. "There's something else you should know. I've been cooperating with prosecutors, giving them names, locations, evidence, everything they need to dismantle what's left of my criminal organization." Her eyes widened. "You're testifying?" "Yes, it means I'll go to prison, maybe for years. But it also means Minho will be free. No one will come after him, no debts, no revenge." He met her gaze. "I'm choosing him over everything else." "What happens to him while you're locked up?" "That's why I need you." He leaned forward. "I have resources, money in legitimate accounts. I'll set up a trust for Minho's care. You won't have to worry about rent or bills or—" "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" "I want to know he'll have a real father when you get out, not just a guilty man trying to make up for the past." "He will. I swear it on my wife's memory, on everything I have left." Hana stood, walked to the window. Outside, Minho played in the garden with an older woman, Mrs. Choi, presumably. He was laughing, really laughing. It was the first time she'd heard that sound. "If I agree," she said slowly, "I need to be part of his life, not just now but after. I need to know he's okay." Jun Seok stood beside her. "You want shared custody?" "I want to be his mother, however that looks." His breath caught. "You'd do that?" "He called me Mom." Her voice broke slightly. "I can't just walk away from that." Then we'll figure it out, together. The word hung between them like a promise. For the first time since this started, Hannah felt something ease in her chest. Maybe this could work. Maybe family didn't have to look one specific way. Maybe it could be messy and complicated and still be real. Hannah thought they had time to figure things out. She was wrong. It happened on a Tuesday night, 10 days after their conversation in the mansion. Minho was staying with her while Jun Seok met with prosecutors. They'd had dinner, real food, not instant noodles. Beef bulgogi with rice. Kimchi that Mrs. O had sent home with her. Minho had drawn pictures while she cleaned up. 3 stick figures holding hands. Labels underneath in careful letters. Dad, Minho, Miss Hannah. He'd fallen asleep on her bed, clutching the drawing. She was washing the last dish when she heard it. Wood splintering, her door crashing open. She spun around. 3 men in black masks stormed into her tiny apartment. "Where's the boy?" the leader demanded. Terror flooded her veins. "Get out of my home." The man laughed, a cold, ugly sound. "We're taking him. Boss's orders." Jun Seok would never, not him, Taejin. The name sent ice down her spine. Jun Seok had mentioned him once, his former second in command, the one who'd wanted to expand into drugs and human trafficking, the one who'd seen Jun Seok's grief after his wife's death as weakness, the one who'd orchestrated Minho's kidnapping in the first place. Hannah lunged for her phone on the counter. One of the men grabbed her wrist and twisted hard. Pain shot up her arm. The phone clattered to the floor. "Minho!" she screamed toward the bedroom. "Run to Mrs. O's, now." He appeared in the doorway, eyes wide with terror, frozen. "It's okay, sweetheart," she gasped, trying to keep her voice calm. "Just go next door. Hurry." He didn't move. The second man started toward him. Hannah threw herself in his path. "Don't you dare touch him." The man shoved her hard. She slammed into the wall. Stars exploded across her vision. She tasted blood. "Miss Hannah," Minho's voice, high and terrified. She forced herself upright. "Run, baby, please." This time he did. He bolted past the men, out the door, down the hallway, toward Mrs. O's apartment. One of the men went after him. Hannah grabbed his leg with both hands. He kicked backward. His boot connected with her ribs. The air left her lungs in a rush. She held on anyway. Then, new footsteps, fast, purposeful. Jun Seok appeared in the doorway. Rage transformed his face into something terrifying. "Let her go." The men froze. "I said let her go." They stepped back, hands raised. Jun Seok's gaze swept the room, landed on Hannah, crumpled against the wall, blood at the corner of her mouth, then found Minho peeking out from Mrs. O's doorway down the hall. His jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. "You work for Taejin," he said flatly. The leader nodded. "He says you've gone soft, says you'll trade everything to keep your kids safe." A cruel smile. "He's right, isn't he?" Jun Seok pulled out his phone, dialed, put it on speaker. "Taejin," a smooth voice answered. "Took you long enough to call." "You want me? I'll come. Let them go." "Why would I do that when I have all the leverage?" "Because I kept insurance." Jun Seok's voice went cold as winter. "Copies of every transaction, every name, every location. 3 prosecutors have sealed files. If I don't check in within the hour, those files go public." Silence. "You're bluffing." "Try me. See what happens to your operation when the police know where every safe house is. When your partners learn you've been skimming profits, when your buyers discover you're an informant liability. A longer pause. Fine, you come alone. Tonight, the warehouse in Yongsan. You remember it. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Jun Seok ended the call, looked at the men. Go, tell him I'm coming. They exchanged glances, then left. The moment they were gone, Jun Seok crossed to Hana, knelt beside her. How bad are you hurt? I'm okay, she lied. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Minho, Mrs. O appeared, holding the trembling boy. He's safe with me. Jun Seok stood, reached for his son. Minho clung to him, small body shaking. I've got you, Jun Seok murmured into his hair. You're safe now. Hana struggled to her feet, one hand pressed to her side. You can't go to him. Jun Seok looked at her over Minho's head. I have to. He'll kill you. Maybe. His smile was sad, resigned. But you'll both be safe. That's all that matters. No, that's not. There has to be another way. Hana. He carefully set Minho down, then took her hand, squeezed gently. You asked me if I'd show up, even when it's hard. His eyes held hers. This is me showing up. Tears blurred her vision. I don't need power anymore, he said quietly. I just need him to grow up safe. He turned to Minho, knelt down, cupped the boy's face in both hands. Listen to me, buddy. I have to go do something. But Miss Hana and Mrs. O will take care of you, okay? No, Minho's voice cracked. Don't go, please. I have to make sure the bad men never come back. You promised you'd stay. You promised. The words broke something in Jun Seok's face. He pulled his son close, pressed his face into Minho's hair. When he spoke again, his voice shook. You're right, I broke my promise before, but this time I'm fixing everything, so you never have to be scared again. He kissed Minho's forehead, then handed him to Hana. Their eyes met. Take care of him, he whispered. Wait. She grabbed his sleeve. The police. Call them. There has to be. They know where I'm going. They'll move in after I. He stopped. Just trust me, please. And then he was gone. The next 24 hours were the longest of Hana's life. She stayed with Minho in Mrs. O's apartment, held him when he cried, sang to him when he couldn't sleep, drew pictures with him when the silence got too heavy. But inside, her heart was breaking. Because she knew the statistics, men who walked into situations like that rarely walked back out. Mrs. O brought food neither of them could eat, tea that went cold. The television played news on low volume, reports of a major police operation in Yongsan. Multiple arrests, details still emerging. Every time Hana's phone buzzed, her heart stopped. But it was never him. On the second morning, someone knocked on Mrs. O's door. Hana opened it with her heart in her throat. A middle-aged man in a suit stood there. Kind eyes. Detective's badge clipped to his belt. Miss Hana. Yes. I'm Detective Park, Organized Crime Unit. I need to talk to you about Jun Seok. Her stomach dropped. Is he? He's alive, injured but stable. He's in custody at Seoul Metropolitan Hospital under guard. Relief hit her so hard, she had to grip the doorframe. Can I see him? In a few days, once he's cleared medical. Right now, he's being debriefed. Detective Park held out an envelope. He asked me to give you this for his son. She took it with trembling hands. He also wanted you to know Taejin and 19 of his associates are in custody. The entire operation is dismantled. Your boy is safe now. What happens to Jun Seok? That depends on the prosecutor. He's cooperating fully. Gave us everything. If his testimony leads to convictions, and it will, he's looking at a significantly reduced sentence. Possibly 3 to 5 years. 5 years felt like forever. Can you tell him something for me? Her voice cracked. Tell him thank you for keeping his word. Detective Park nodded. I will. After he left, Hana sat on the floor beside Minho. The boy looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. Is Dad okay? Yeah, sweetheart, he's okay. When is he coming home? She swallowed hard. Thought about lying, making it easier. But she'd promised herself she'd always tell him the truth, even when it hurt. Not for a while, but he sent you something. She handed him the envelope. Inside, a letter and a delicate silver ring. This was your mom's, Hana said softly, recognizing it from the inscription. Your dad wanted you to have it. Minho's lower lip trembled. He touched the ring gently, reverently, like it might break. Can you read me the letter? She unfolded it with shaking hands. Her vision blurred, but she read it aloud. Dear Minho, if you're reading this, it means I kept my promise. For a long time, I thought love meant keeping you locked away where nothing could hurt you. I thought being a father meant being strong and never showing fear. But you taught me something better. You taught me that love means showing up, even when you're terrified. It means letting people see your broken pieces and trusting them to be gentle. Miss Hana showed me that too. She held you when I couldn't. She gave you the kind of love I'd forgotten how to give. I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life. I don't know what kind of father I'll be when I come home. I've made terrible mistakes, hurt people, done things I can never take back. But I promise you this, I will show up for you every single day. I will tell you the truth, even when it's hard. And I will love you, not because you're supposed to be mine, but because you're Minho. Kind, brave, and so much better than I ever was. The ring belonged to your mother. She made me promise to give it to you when you were old enough to understand what it means. It means you come from love, real love, the kind that doesn't quit. I want you to know something else. When your mother was sick, toward the end, she made me promise her something. She said, if something happens to me, don't let the darkness win. Find the light for our son. I didn't understand what she meant then. I thought she was talking about leaving my old life behind, which I tried to do. But now I realize she meant something more. She meant finding people who bring light into dark places. People like Miss Hana, who see a stranger in trouble and don't walk past. Who give everything they have, even when they have almost nothing. Your mother would have loved her, would have loved seeing how she takes care of you. I think maybe that's what second chances look like. Not erasing our mistakes, but finding people who help us become better than we were. Thank you for giving me another chance. I'll see you soon. Love, Dad. By the time she finished, both she and Minho were crying. But they were also smiling, because sometimes love means letting go, and sometimes it means holding on through the waiting. Minho slipped the ring onto his thumb, the only finger small enough. He held his hand up, watching the silver catch the light. Do you think Mom can see me? He asked quietly. Hana's throat tightened. I think if she can, she's very proud of you. And Dad, do you think he's proud too? I know he is, sweetheart. He tells you every single visit, doesn't he? Minho nodded, then looked at her with those huge, solemn eyes. Are you proud of me? Her heart broke and mended in the same moment. So proud, every single day. He crawled into her lap, and she held him while he cried for everything he'd lost and everything he'd found. Outside, the city hummed on. But in that small apartment, two people who'd found each other by accident built something that felt like family. One moment at a time. Real love isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. 11 months later. The small ramen shop on the corner of Noksapyeong had a new sign, Hana and Minho's Place, hand-painted letters in warm gold, a little crooked but cheerful. Inside, the restaurant hummed with evening customers. Hana moved between tables, refilling water, laughing with regulars. She'd saved for 8 months, tips, double shifts, help from Mrs. O, to lease this space. It wasn't fancy, mismatched chairs, menu boards written in chalk, but it was theirs. Minho sat at the counter doing homework, occasionally sneaking bites of pickled radish when he thought she wasn't looking. He'd grown 3 inches, started 3rd grade, made friends who came over after school. The nightmares had faded to maybe once a month. His smile came easy now. Every Saturday, they took the subway to Seoul Metropolitan Detention Center, visited Jun Seok for 2 hours. Minho told his father about school, about the restaurant, about the new spicy pork recipe they'd created together. Jun Seok listened to every word like it was precious, drew pictures with Minho during their time together, helped with homework through the glass partition. Slowly, through weekly visits and constant letters, they were rebuilding something real. One Thursday evening, just after closing time, Hana was wiping down tables when Mrs. O stuck her head through the door. "Someone here to see you." Hana looked up. Her breath stopped. Jun Seok stood in the doorway. He looked different, thinner. A jagged scar along his jaw from the warehouse confrontation. But his eyes were the same, warm, hopeful, scared. "Hi," he said quietly. For one frozen heartbeat, Minho just stared from his seat at the counter. Then he screamed, "Dad!" He flew across the room and launched himself into his father's arms. Jun Seok caught him, held him tight, his face pressed into Minho's hair. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. Hana's throat closed up. She'd just seen him 5 days ago during their regular visit. He'd said nothing about early release. "They let you out?" she finally managed. He nodded, still holding Minho. Good behavior, exemplary cooperation. The prosecutor advocated for early parole. He set Minho down, but kept one hand on his shoulder. "I have restrictions, weekly check-ins for 2 years. Can't leave Seoul, but I'm free." "Free," she echoed. "Yeah." He looked around the small restaurant, at the hand-painted menus, the warm lighting, the family photos on the wall, including several of the 3 of them from prison visits. "This is amazing." "It's ours," Minho announced proudly. "Miss Hana and me built it together." Jun Seok's gaze found hers. "I'm so proud of you both." An awkward silence settled. Minho tugged his father's sleeve. "Can you stay for dinner? Miss Hana makes the best ramen in Seoul. Everyone says so." Jun Seok looked at her, a question in his eyes. She nodded, unable to speak. "I'd love that," he said softly. They sat at a corner table. Hana ladled steaming broth into 3 bowls. The scent of garlic, ginger, and sesame filled the air. Her hands only shook a little. Minho chattered between bites about everything and nothing. His teacher, the stray cat that lived in the alley, his best friend Junho. Jun Seok listened to every word with complete attention, like Minho was describing the secrets of the universe. After they finished eating, Minho yawned hugely. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Hana said, standing. "But Dad just got here," Minho protested, even as his eyes drooped. "I'll be here tomorrow," Jun Seok promised, "and the next day, and the day after that." Minho's eyes went wide. "Really? Every day?" "Every single day." The boy hugged them both fiercely, then trudged upstairs to the small apartment above the shop. Alone in the quiet restaurant, Hana and Jun Seok stood surrounded by the soft glow of paper lanterns. Outside, neon signs painted colors across the windows: pink, blue, gold. "I meant what I said," Jun Seok spoke first, "about being here. I know. I want to help. With the restaurant, with Minho, with whatever you need." She studied him. This man who once commanded through fear now stood in her modest ramen shop, offering his hands. "I have conditions," she said carefully. "Okay. No secrets. If something's wrong, if someone from your past shows up, if you're struggling, you tell me immediately." "I will. And you're honest with Minho about what you did, about your choices, age-appropriate but truthful." "Yes. And," she paused, "you let me be part of the decision-making, not just about Minho, about us, about what we're building here." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Us? If there is an us," she said quickly, "I'm not assuming, I just mean—" "Hana." He stepped closer. "You've mattered to me since the moment you saved my son. Since I saw how you cared for him when I couldn't. You matter more than I know how to say." Her heart hammered. "Then show me, every day." "I will." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was gentle, reverent. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Why did you let me back in? After everything I put you through?" She'd thought about this question during countless sleepless nights. "Because you kept your word," she said finally. "When it mattered most, when Minho needed protecting, you showed up. You sacrificed everything. That's the kind of man I want in my life." She paused. "That's the kind of man I want Minho to learn from." "I'm not sure I deserve that faith." "That's not your decision, it's mine." She smiled slightly. "And I'm choosing to believe in second chances." His breath hitched. "Hana, I'm not saying it'll be easy. We have history, trauma, a lot of healing ahead of us." "I know. But I think," her smile grew, "I think we could build something good, the three of us." Jun Seok cupped her face gently in both hands. "I would like that more than anything." She leaned into his touch. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she let herself imagine a future that wasn't just surviving day to day, a future that was actually living. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, steady. "It's raining," she observed. He smiled. "Full circle from the night you found him." "From the night I found both of you." "That's cheesy," he said. "I know." She laughed. "But it's true." They stood close, not quite touching, listening to raindrum against the windows. And Hana understood something profound. This was what romance actually looked like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, but two broken people choosing again and again to show up for each other. Learning to love not despite their scars, but because those scars proved they'd survived. Because the cracks were where the light got in. 6 months later, the restaurant had become a neighborhood fixture. Regulars came for the food and stayed for the warmth. Mrs. O stopped by most evenings with gossip and homemade side dishes. Detective Park became a regular customer who said the broth reminded him of his mother's cooking. Jun Seok worked in the kitchen now. He'd learned to make the broth perfectly, to slice vegetables paper thin, to move through the rhythm of service. His hands, once used to sign orders that destroyed lives, now created comfort food. Slowly, carefully, they built something real. One evening after closing, Jun Seok found Hana on the small rooftop terrace above the shop. She stood at the railing, looking out over the glittering city. "Hey," he said softly. She turned and smiled. "Hey yourself." He joined her at the railing. For a moment they just stood there, shoulders touching, breathing the cool night air. "I've been thinking about something," he said. "Dangerous habit." He laughed. "Probably, but I wanted to ask you something important." "Okay." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Her breath caught. "It's not what you think," he said quickly. "I mean, it is, but not yet. I know we're still figuring things out. He opened the box. 2 silver rings, simple, elegant, matching bands. "Promise rings," he explained. "One for you, one for me. A commitment that we're in this together. Building something real." He met her eyes. No pressure, no expectations, just a promise to keep showing up. Hana's eyes burned with tears. "Jun Seok, you don't have to answer now. I just wanted you to know how serious I am about—" "Yes," he blinked. "Yes, yes." She took the smaller ring from the box and slid it onto her finger. Perfect fit. "I'm all in, with you, with this, with us." His face transformed with joy. He slipped on the matching band. Then, slowly, carefully, he cupped her face in his hands. "Can I kiss you?" he whispered. "Yes," she breathed. He leaned in and pressed his lips to hers, soft, tender, full of promise and hope and second chances. Hana felt something click into place. That sense of rightness she'd been searching for her entire life. This was home. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For saving me, for saving Minho, for teaching us both what love looks like." She smiled. "Thank you for showing up." "Always." Below them, through the window, they could see Minho fast asleep on the couch. On the wall above him, his drawing of their family. 3 stick figures holding hands, all smiling. Dad, Miss Hana, Minho, not a criminal anymore. Not a struggling girl alone anymore. Just 3 people who'd found each other in the darkness and chose every single day to be a family. 3 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Hana, Jun Seok, and Minho stood in front of a small courthouse. Inside, a judge finalized the paperwork. Hana was now Minho's legal co-guardian. Joint custody with Jun Seok, fully recognized by the state. When they walked out into the sunshine, Minho looked up at them both. "Does this mean Miss Hana is really my mom now? Like, officially?" Hana knelt down to his eye level. "If you want me to be." "I do." He threw his arms around her neck. "I've wanted that forever." She held him tight, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. Over his shoulder, she saw Jun Seok watching them with tears streaming down his face. Not tears of sadness, tears of overwhelming gratitude. That evening, they celebrated at the restaurant. Mrs. O brought cake. Detective Park stopped by with flowers. Even Mrs. Choi, Jun Seok's former housekeeper, came with homemade rice cakes and stories about Minho's mother that made the boy laugh and cry at the same time. It was loud, chaotic, full of love, everything a family celebration should be. As the evening wound down, Minho tugged on Jun Seok's sleeve. "Dad, can I show you something?" "Always." Minho led him to the back room. Pinned to the wall were dozens of drawings, all variations of the same theme, 3 figures holding hands. But the newest one was different. 4 figures, 3 holding hands, and a 4th, tiny, wrapped in a blanket, in someone's arms. Jun Seok's breath caught. "Minho, is this a baby?" Minho looked up hopefully. "Do you think we could have one? Someday?" Jun Seok glanced toward the main room, where Hana was laughing at something Mrs. O said. Her hand rested unconsciously on her stomach. They'd only found out 2 weeks ago. Hadn't told anyone yet. But somehow Minho knew. Children always knew. Jun Seok knelt down and pulled his son close. "Would you like that?" "Yeah." Minho nodded enthusiastically. "I'd be the best big brother. I'd teach them everything. How to draw. How to be brave. How to make ramen without burning it." "You would be amazing. Can you tell Miss Hana that I want a baby brother or sister?" Jun Seok smiled. "Actually, we have something to tell you very soon." Minho's eyes went huge. "Really, really, really? Really, really?" The boy squealed and hugged him fiercely. And Jun Seok thought, this is what redemption feels like. Not erasing the past, but building a future so full of love and light that the darkness couldn't compete. That night, after everyone left and Minho was asleep, Hana and Jun Seok sat on the rooftop terrace under the stars. She leaned against him, his arm around her shoulders, her hand resting on the small swell of her belly. "He knows," Jun Seok said. "About the baby?" "Yeah," he drew a picture of 4 people. She laughed softly. "Of course he did. That child is more intuitive than both of us combined." "Are you scared?" "Terrified." She looked up at him. "But also so happy I can barely breathe. How is that possible?" "Because love is terrifying and beautiful at the same time." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker below. "You know what's wild?" Hana said eventually. 2 years ago, I was just trying to survive, working endless hours, wondering if I'd ever have more than a rented room and instant noodles." She gestured at the restaurant below. "And now look, we have a business, a son, a baby on the way, a whole life." "You built this," he said firmly. "You're the one who stopped in that alley, who refused to give up on a scared little boy, who showed both of us what unconditional love looks like. We built it together." "No." He turned to face her fully. "You started it. You're the bravest person I've ever known. You took nothing and created everything." She wiped her eyes. "Stop making me cry." "Good tears?" "The best tears." He kissed her deeply. When they pulled apart, she kept her hand on her stomach. "Boy or girl?" she asked. "What do you think?" "Doesn't matter, as long as they're healthy." Very diplomatic dad answer. He grinned. "I'm practicing." She laughed, then grew serious. "Do you ever miss it? The power, the money, the life you had before?" "Never." He said it instantly. "I'd give it all up 10,000 times for this. For you, for Minho, for our family. That world took everything from me. This world gave me everything that matters." She squeezed his hand. "I love you." His eyes widened. She didn't say it often, still learning to trust the words. "I love you too," he said. "I've loved you since the moment you bandaged my arm and scolded me for fighting. Since I saw you with my son and understood what a real parent looks like." Not perfect, better than perfect, real. They kissed again under the stars, and in that moment everything felt right. Not because they'd solved every problem, not because the future was certain, but because they'd chosen each other, and that choice, made every single day, was the most inspirational thing either of them had ever done. True strength doesn't come from power or fear, or walls built so high nothing can touch you. True strength comes from the hand that reaches out when it's shaking, from the voice that says, "I'm here," when it's breaking, from the heart that loves even after it's been shattered. Hana learned that the night she found a lost boy crying in the rain and chose to care instead of walking past. Jun Seok learned it the moment he laid down his gun and chose his son over everything else. And Minho, brave, beautiful Minho, learned that family isn't about blood or biology. It's about the people who stay, who hold you through the nightmares, who show up again and again, even when it's impossibly hard. That's what love looks like. Not perfect, not easy, not wrapped up with a neat bow, but real. And that's what matters. Because at the end of the day, we're all searching for the same thing: a place to belong, a hand to hold, a reason to believe that broken things can become whole again. And maybe that's not just a story. Maybe that's a truth worth living. The kind of truth that reminds us it's never too late to start over. Never too late to choose love over fear. Never too late to become who we were always meant to be. Hana chose to save a stranger. Jun Seok chose to save himself. Minho chose to believe in both of them, and together they built something that no amount of money or power could buy. A family. Not the kind you're born into, the kind you choose every single day. That's the most motivational lesson of all. Love isn't something that happens to you. It's something you do, something you build, something you fight for. And when you find it, when you really, truly find it, you hold on with everything you have. You show up. You keep choosing, no matter what. Because that's what real heroes do. Not the ones in movies, the real ones. The ones who save strangers in the rain. The ones who sacrifice everything for their children. The ones who believe in second chances. The ones who prove every single day that love is stronger than fear. That hope is stronger than despair. That family is stronger than anything. And somewhere in Seoul, in a small ramen shop with hand-painted menus and mismatched chairs, 4 people are living that truth, building that dream, creating that life. One bowl of noodles at a time, one hug at a time, one choice at a time. And that's the most beautiful story of all. If this story touched your heart, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to this channel. Every week, we bring you stories about love, healing, and second chances. Stories that remind us it's never too late to become who we were meant to be. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you are worthy of love. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of your own beautiful story. Sweet dreams, and until next time.